I want to just spend a few moments talking to you about being apart but united. When I started on Wednesday morning, I talked about George Floyd and the killing of George Floyd. And one of the things that, as I, think about as we went through the summer and as the defund the police resolution came through, it really gave me the opportunity to reflect and to think about what was happening in the country, and more so what was happening with my upbringing in San Francisco. Growing up in San Francisco, one of the things that I've talked about, I actually sent a video before the summer started about how my dad had to have a talk with me about how to interact with the police. And when George Floyd's funeral was occurring, or the memorial service, one of the things that Reverend Sharpton said was, he talked about what shocked the country was the taking of a life in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And the entire country was able to see that. And one of the things that he also said, though, was that it was symbolic of so much of what's happened, especially to Black America, the knee on the neck. And for so many people in this country, that knee to the neck is for a lifetime, it's the slow taking or the slow strangulation, so many incidents that happen. And one of the things, as the defund the police resolution came forward, one of the things that it gave me the opportunity to think about was, in my life, there's only been 3 times in my life that I've had a gun aimed at me. And all 3 times were San Francisco police officers. So I've lived in a lot of places, but for some reason, only living in San Francisco have I had guns pulled on me and been made to lay down and told to kiss the pavement and spread eagle on the ground by San Francisco police officers. So as I think about that, those events were traumatic for me. But the most traumatic events weren't those for me. More trauma for me was caused as a student in San Francisco Unified. And I think about that. So I think about what Reverend Sharpton said about the slow killing, or the slow cutting off of circulation. And I think about, as a second grader at Grattan, telling my mother that I know my teacher didn't like me. And she didn't believe that. And then when I was in the 3rd grade, she actually got a job at the school as a paraprofessional. And she actually came in one of the times that she actually came and apologized to me to say, now I see what you meant, after she got to know who this teacher was. As a student at Hoover and being called down to the counselor's office to bring proof of my address, living in Haight-Ashbury, that I belonged at Hoover. But when I got down to the counselor's office, there was a line of about 15 to 20 African-American students, all of us having to bring in proof of our addresses. Many of you know, when I've told my leadership story about my mother having to come up to the school to get my classes changed because I was not put in courses that would have me go to college. But the stories that I don't tell are the number of times that I was kicked out of class for a variety of reasons, just questioning something. Or if I left the class to go get something, walking across McAteer's campus, the number of times I was asked for my pass when I saw other students walking by, and no question, over and over asked. Or the time at McAteer when I was accused of lying by a teacher who said that when I turned in, I said I had read a book and it was 700 pages. The teacher said, that's impossible. This book could not be 700 pages. Required me to bring it in. And when I brought it in, there was no apology, no, just move on to the next subject. Or a paper that I wrote accused of copying from a young lady who was sitting 5 rows over. So somehow I was able to look 5 rows over and back to see so these daily incidents, these daily occurrences are the slow, painful, traumatic separation or cutting off of circulation. But here's the thing, I sit here today as superintendent. And the reason that I sit here today is because not just those incidents happened, but because there were other incidents that happened at McAteer High. Mr. Blanchard, who always looked for African American, Latino students of color and told us, sought us out to tell us to keep our heads up. Ms. Pearson, who went out of our way, when I wasn't in college going courses and couldn't get into my counselor's office, Ms. Pearson was the one who said, get your mom and bring her up. Mr. Disgrazi, who made sure that I had college applications. He not only made I had them, but he had rooms and rooms of kids of color in those rooms, making us fill out college applications. There's Mr. Graziani, who took time on his own to assist us in writing college letters. So when I think about those incidents and I think about those people, these are the people that I see as I scroll through Zoom right now. Those people at that time who were, I don't know, they knew they were anti-racist and anti-racist leaders and anti-racist instructors, but they were. And they may not have been called that, but that's what they were doing. And as I scroll through and look through your faces, I'm proud to be in this work with you. Those people, I know behind the scenes, and I'm sure at staff meetings, they were calling out incidents of racism. But if they couldn't get it changed in the structure, they said, okay, we're gonna do whatever we can to make it happen in our classrooms, and we're gonna set up our own structures to make sure low-income kids of color are getting to where they need to go. When the system pulled the ladders further, the rungs of the ladder further apart and made it harder for us to climb up, these were the people who pulled those rungs back closer together to make sure we could climb up. And that's what I'm so proud of as I go through and scroll through and hit the forward arrow and see your faces, to be united in this work with you. Yes, we are apart, but we are united. I want to end with this though. Martin Luther King said, if we don't learn, and I'm going to add sisters in here because he didn't say this, we know there was some patriarchy in the civil rights movement, but he said, if we don't live together as brothers and sisters, my addition, we will perish as fools. There are a lot of attacks right now on public education, from the federal government all the way to a lot of local attacks. And I'm going to say this again, if we, the people on this Zoom call, if we don't learn to live together as brothers and sisters, we are going to perish as fools. It is critical for us to have grace and compassion with each other. We absolutely have to, or else we're going to rip ourselves apart from the inside. This is going to be the hardest year any of us have ever had. We are going to have to use muscles that either we've never had or we definitely haven't used in a long, long time. And with that being said, we have to have grace and compassion for each other. It doesn't benefit central office personnel to look for every flaw that we can find at sites. And I'll say the same for sites. We are going to do everything we can centrally to support you. And it is okay to say, hey, I need more, but let's find constructive ways to do that. It doesn't help anyone if I make a mistake and you put me on blast. It just doesn't. Pull my coattail, call me, say, hey, would be more effective if you can do it this way. But if we don't learn to live together as brothers and sisters in the San Francisco Unified School District boat, we are going to perish as fools. So with that being said, I appreciate you all. I love you. It is going to be a tough year, but keep in mind, we're apart. We're all in our own different places right now, but we have to be united if we are going to make sure that we are in partnership with our community and we're doing anti-racist leadership. We have to be together. Love you all. I thank you. I'm looking forward to this year.